Hi guys, it's John here again. It's again Thursday, September 30th, 2021. I had posted a video a few days ago, I think it was Saturday, about the climate change situation, which has received some attention, and I wanted to sort of do a very quick little follow-up here, provide you with some material that will help sort of put this into context for people who are interested in that, sort of from a geopolitical perspective, and how this might play out in reality for human beings and governments and so forth. Now, so back in 2008, there's a Canadian named Gwynne Dyer who's a columnist, widely syndicated columnist, but he's also a military historian, which is where things start to get really interesting. So as a guy who really focused on military history and stuff like that, he had access to people within those realms, including the Pentagon, who he could discuss these kinds of things with and how they were preparing for this. And we know already that the Pentagon has described this as one of the top issues of concern for them, and that they see it as a threat multiplier. What that means is that it's something of significant concern to them. And again, so Gwynne Dyer published this book in 2008 called Climate Wars. So there's the book, but also here in Canada, we have a national broadcaster called the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or the CBC, which is basically made available to everybody in the country. And they have a radio series called Ideas, which is kind of like a documentary, hour-long documentary. I think it's once a week or maybe more. They do some really interesting content. They're kind of like the BBC. So they did a series on this book back, I think it was 2009. And how many parts was it? 3 parts? I will link it in the description. So the CBC Ideas segments, which is, I guess it's 3 hours, excuse me, it's kind of a synopsis, of this if you don't actually want to read the whole book. But like I said, it provides a very interesting perspective on how this could play out geopolitically, climate change, that is. And now, one other very important thing to note is that because he published this in 2008, so a lot of the science that this is based on is still accurate generally, but it's fairly significantly out of date because there's been a tremendous amount of research and evidence that has come forward since then that obviously isn't included in this book because of the date of publishing. It should be noted as well that a lot of the evidence that has come forward since when he wrote this book, and presumably he was researching it for years prior, is actually quite a bit more dire than what was understood back then, in pretty much every regard, and also that things are happening much faster than what was anticipated. However, conceptually, like how this could play out is still valid, and it's very interesting to look at it from the perspective of somebody who was involved in sort of high-level strategic military, with a high-level strategic military perspective. So I will put links below to Gwynne Dyer's website. Actually, I met him briefly and had chatted with him for a little bit because he did a presentation in Ottawa that I went to, and there was one of the lead authors from the IPCC there, a Canadian, and we had an interesting conversation. But anyway, this is mostly just to put out give you some links for further follow-up and conceptualization of this situation. All right, thanks and take care. We'll talk to you again soon.